My girlfriend moved in, then called our dying dog just an animal and suggested getting a cat. My daughter heard everything. I'm a 41-year-old guy, and my daughter, she's 13 now, means the absolute world to me. Her mom passed away during childbirth, and from that moment on, it's just been the two of us. Anyone who's ever lost a spouse out of the blue probably knows how soul-crushing it is to pick yourself up when everything in your life gets ripped apart in an instant. Over the years, I've tried dipping my toes back into dating, but it's been one failure after another. Either the woman isn't into kids, or my daughter isn't comfortable around her, or sometimes the connection just isn't there. A few times, I actually thought things might be going somewhere, but as soon as they got a taste of what it's like dating a single parent, they'd bolt. I'm not gonna lie, dating as a single dad is exhausting. And there were plenty of times I asked myself if it was even worth the effort anymore. Here's some backstory that's important to everything that follows. About a year before my daughter, let's call her Stephanie, was born, my late wife Joy surprised me with a border collie puppy for our anniversary. I named him Flip because he had this wild habit of flipping midair whenever he got excited about dinner or going for a walk. Not some graceful show dog move either, it was more like a clumsy, goofy somersault that never failed to crack us up. After Joy died, Flip became my lifeline. He was more than a pet, he was my rock, my best friend during the worst stretch of my life. When I was up all night holding a crying newborn, Flip was right there next to me, refusing to leave my side. And when I'd break down missing Joy, Flip would quietly lay his head in my lap, like he just knew I needed him. There's one night I'll never forget. Stephanie was about 3 months old, and I was sitting on the kitchen floor at 2 a.m., just falling apart. She'd finally gone to sleep after crying nonstop for hours, and I was spent. Flip came over and pressed himself against my chest while I sobbed into his fur. I swear, that dog understood grief in a way most people can't. As Stephanie grew, her bond with Flip was something special. He was like her four-legged guardian angel, always looking out for her. He slept at the foot of her bed every single night. When she was learning how to walk, he'd position himself to catch her if she stumbled. And anytime she was upset, Flip somehow just knew and would be right there comforting her. Every family trip, every weekend getaway, every visit to my folks, Stephanie insisted on bringing Flip along. And of course, I was always on board. We were a unit, me, Steph, and Flip. I still remember this one time when she was around 5 or 6, we were at a super crowded park, and I turned around for a second, and she was gone. I panicked, running around shouting her name and asking random strangers if they'd seen a little girl. After what felt like the longest 10 minutes of my life, here comes Flip, gently tugging Stephanie back to me by the hem of her shirt. He had found her all on his own and brought her straight back. That was just who he was, not just a dog, but family in every sense. Now fast forward to about a year ago when I thought I'd finally hit the jackpot in the dating world. I met a woman named Donna, 39, through a coworker, and we clicked almost instantly. She checked a lot of boxes: smart, kind, successful. She worked as a project manager, and best of all, she really seemed to connect with Stephanie from the get-go. Donna mentioned early on that she wasn't a dog lover, said she grew up with cats, but it didn't seem like a huge deal. I told her up front that Flip wasn't optional, he came with the package. She said she understood, and little by little, I thought Flip was starting to grow on her. She'd pet him now and then, let him sit near her on the couch, and even took him for a walk once when I had to help Steph with a school project. Or at least, that's what I believed, like she was genuinely warming up to him. For the first time in years, I started to think maybe this relationship could actually go the distance. Donna and I had been dating for about 10 months when we started talking seriously about living together. Stephanie was a bit hesitant but not outright against it. She and Donna weren't exactly mother-daughter close, but they got along decently, respectful, friendly, and sometimes even had little girls' movie nights when I'd tap out. Donna moved into our house about a month ago. The first week or so was a bit of a learning curve for all of us. Stephanie became a little more withdrawn than usual, which I figured was just her adjusting. Flip was clearly unsure about having someone new around all the time, but he adapted fairly quickly. I actually started to feel hopeful, like maybe we could finally be a real family again. I mean, Stephanie and I were already a complete family, but I guess I was starting to imagine expanding that circle a bit. There were some small bumps in the road. Donna didn't like the amount of dog hair on the furniture and wasn't too thrilled about Flip sleeping in Stephanie's room. She suggested maybe he could stay in the laundry room at night instead. But I put my foot down right away. Flip had always slept either in my room or Steph's, and that wasn't about to change. She backed off, and I thought we were all adjusting pretty well. But then things took a hard turn. About 2 weeks after Donna moved in, Flip started acting really off. He barely touched his food, seemed tired all the time, and just didn't have his usual spark. At first, I chalked it up to him needing more time to settle into the new dynamic, but when he wouldn't even perk up for his favorite treats, I knew something was seriously wrong. I took him to the vet, and the news hit like a brick wall: advanced cancer, spread across multiple organs. They believed it was lymphoma that had been quietly growing for months without any visible signs until now. The vet told me he was in pain and the most humane thing we could do was let him go. I broke down right there in the exam room. I wasn't ready to say goodbye. I asked if we could hold off until Stephanie had a chance to say goodbye too. Thankfully, the vet was incredibly kind and said we could have a little time. I called Stephanie's school, it's just a few minutes from the clinic, and explained what was happening. They pulled her out of class, and I picked her up right away. The drive back to the vet was absolutely heartbreaking. Stephanie kept asking if there was any chance to treat him, if there was something else we could try. I had to gently explain that the cancer had progressed too far, and the kindest, most loving thing we could do was help Flip go peacefully. She cried the whole ride there. Back at the clinic, we sat with Flip for a long time, just petting him, telling him how much we loved him, and what a good boy he was. The vet walked us through the process so gently, giving us all the time we needed. Stephanie and I both held Flip as he drifted away, surrounded by love. I'm not exaggerating when I say I cried for most of that day. Stephanie too. She's never known life without Flip. That night, she came to me and asked if she could sleep in my room. Stephanie told me she just couldn't handle sleeping in her room without Flip at her feet. That space suddenly felt too empty, too quiet. I didn't hesitate, I told her she could sleep in mine that night. Later that evening, Donna walked in the door while I was sitting on the couch, staring at Flip's empty dog bed tucked in the corner of the living room. I was holding his collar in my hands, slowly turning it over and over, just lost in thought. When I told her what had happened, my voice cracked, I was barely holding myself together. And her response? "Oh well, guess it's time to get a cat. Something we can both enjoy." I blinked. I honestly thought I misheard her. So I asked her to repeat it. She did. And just to twist the knife a little deeper, she added that she never really liked Flip anyway and this might actually be for the best. I was stunned. Absolutely stunned. I told her that Flip wasn't just a pet, he was my best friend, my family, and she was acting like it meant nothing. She rolled her eyes and said, "It was just a dog. No big deal. You're being overly emotional." My heart shattered all over again. Then she started going on about how now the furniture could finally be free of dog hair, and how we wouldn't have to worry about early morning walks anymore. She mentioned that cats were easier to deal with, more independent and cleaner. She even said we should check out the local shelter that weekend and see if any kittens caught our eye. What made it even worse was that Stephanie had overheard the entire conversation from the hallway. She burst into tears and ran to my room, slamming the door behind her. I followed her immediately. She was curled up on the bed, sobbing and saying over and over, "How could she say that about Flip, and I hate her, Dad." I held her close and let her cry. Because honestly, I didn't have any good answers. I was thinking the same things myself. About an hour later, I went back downstairs. Donna was on the couch, watching some trashy reality show like nothing had even happened. I told her calmly at first that what she said was unbelievably tone-deaf and hurtful. Not just to me, but especially to Stephanie. She gave a half shrug and said she didn't see the big deal. That maybe this was a good life lesson for Stephanie. That she needed to learn about loss sooner or later and toughen up. I felt rage bubbling up inside me and had to leave the room before I said something I couldn't take back. I ended up in the kitchen, gripping the counter with both hands, trying to steady my breathing. A few minutes later, I came back and told her flat out, if she couldn't show a shred of compassion for what my daughter and I were going through, maybe this whole living together idea had been a mistake. That's when she flipped it on me. Said I was being ridiculous. Said she'd uprooted her life, given up her apartment to move in with us, and now I was choosing a dead dog over her. At that point, I was emotionally done. I told her I'd be staying in Stephanie's room for the night and that I needed space. The next day wasn't any better. Donna walked around the house like everything was fine, like the emotional wreckage she caused the night before didn't even register. She actually had the nerve to comment that normal people don't stay hung up on a pet this long. That evening, I made up the guest room and told her that's where she'd be sleeping from now on. She called me childish and stormed off. Since then, she's barely spoken a word to me unless it's absolutely necessary. As for Stephanie, she's completely cut Donna off. Doesn't speak to her. Doesn't even look in her direction. If Donna enters a room, Steph walks out. And honestly, I can't blame her. Yesterday morning, Donna tried to break the ice by offering to take Stephanie shopping for new clothes. Stephanie didn't even acknowledge her. She just grabbed her backpack and walked out the front door to wait for her bus. I've been seriously thinking about ending things with Donna and asking her to move out. I don't think she'll ever understand what Flip meant to us. This isn't just about losing a dog, it's about her complete inability to show even the most basic human empathy. Flip was a dog, yes. But more than that, he was family. And the way she reacted showed me a version of her I never expected to see. Cold. Dismissive. Emotionally detached. I used to think she was warm and thoughtful. Now I'm not so sure. I'm questioning everything I thought I knew about her. Right now, I'm just emotionally drained. I'd love nothing more than to disappear under the covers for a week and pretend none of this is happening, but I have to keep it together for Stephanie. The worst part is that breaking up won't be easy. Donna gave up her apartment, signed a 1-year lease with me, and moved in all her stuff. Untangling that mess would be a logistical nightmare. But I'm not sure I can move forward with someone who treats grief like a personality flaw. Sorry for the long rant. I guess I'm just trying to figure out if I'm overreacting. Is it really too much to ask for a little understanding from someone even if they're not a dog person? Update 1. Hey folks, wow, I honestly didn't expect this post to blow up the way it did. I've read through so many of your kind messages, and I just want to say thank you. Really. The support means more than I can put into words. And to those saying it sounds made up, I get it. A lot of wild stuff floats around Reddit. But this was real for me. After posting, I headed into my overnight shift. I work in security management, someone asked in the comments. I wasn't looking forward to going in. I was emotionally spent and figured I'd just be dragging through the night. But honestly, sometimes sticking to a routine helps. My coworker Tanya, who I've worked with for over 4 years, had already heard about Flip from another colleague. When I showed up, she handed me a small chocolate cake shaped like a dog bone, with Flip written on it in frosting. I nearly lost it right there in the break room. Tanya's one of those rare people who always just gets it. Her husband's a great guy too. We talked during our break, and I showed her this post. She's not a Reddit fan by any stretch, but she understood why I needed a place to vent. She told me, without sugarcoating it, that I wasn't being irrational. That anyone with a heart would have been hurt by the way Donna reacted. The rest of the shift was uneventful except for catching a teenager trying to hop the facility fence around 3 a.m. But hey, that's security life. After work, I picked Stephanie up from school. She looked worn out. Turns out, she'd broken down crying during math class and ended up in the counselor's office. Luckily, the staff was understanding and let her rest for a while. On the drive home, we had a quiet but honest talk. I told her I planned to sit down with Donna and lay everything out, how much her words had hurt us. I asked Steph if she wanted to be there for it. She said no, but told me she trusted me to do what was right. That kid, she's got more wisdom at 13 than I had at 30. When we got home, Donna was still at work. So Stephanie and I spent some time going through Flip's things. We looked through old photos, puppy pictures, silly moments, and even laughed about the time he yanked a whole Thanksgiving turkey off the kitchen counter. Wasn't funny at the time, but now? It kind of is. We cried too. But it helped. In some strange way, it helped. Later that night, after Donna came home, I asked her to sit down so we could talk. She immediately got defensive, almost walked out before I could even start. But I told her plain and simple, if we couldn't talk this through like adults, then we had no future. After our talk, I ended up showing Donna the Reddit post. She sat there reading the comments, and honestly, a lot of them were pretty brutal toward her. As she scrolled, her eyes welled up with tears. I could see the weight of it start to sink in. Eventually, she opened up. She said she saw Flip as a symbol of the life I used to have with Joy, and with him gone, she thought maybe I could finally close the chapter and focus more on us, on building something new. She admitted she always felt like she was competing with my past. Said the house felt like a shrine to Joy, from the old photos to the furniture Joy had picked out. She figured with Flip gone, I'd start letting go. I'll be honest, I almost lost it right then. But I took a breath and stayed calm. Something I learned in grief counseling, anger usually comes second. It's often covering up pain, fear, or heartbreak. So I held that in mind while we talked. I told her I could understand feeling insecure, feeling like she was living in someone else's shadow. That made sense. But that didn't give her permission to dismiss our grief or act like Flip's death didn't matter. I explained that both Joy and Flip would always be part of my life, just like Stephanie. That losing them didn't erase their place in my heart. They helped shape the man I am today, and that's not something I'm ever going to apologize for. I told her plainly, if she couldn't accept that, or at the very least show empathy for our loss, then this relationship wasn't going anywhere. She said she was sorry for how she came across, but stood by her opinion. She still believed I was overly attached to Flip, and that my grief wasn't healthy. Then she had the audacity to suggest grief counseling, as if I hadn't already done years of it after Joy died. I know what healthy grieving looks like. And this? This was it. We went back and forth for a while, but the truth became clear, we were at an impasse. She couldn't understand why I was mourning just a dog, and I couldn't wrap my head around how someone could be so indifferent to the death of a family member. Because that's what Flip was. Family. So, long story short, she's moving out. We agreed to take a break for a month or two and reflect on our priorities. Though between you and me, I already know mine. I know what I value. I know the kind of love and empathy I need in a partner. Whether she fits into that picture is her question to answer, not mine. This morning was painfully awkward. We barely said a word to each other while getting ready. Stephanie still refuses to even acknowledge Donna's presence. And honestly, I support her on that. I'm not working tonight, so I'm going to help Donna pack up some of her things and start the process of moving on. She said she'll stay with her sister for now until she figures out a more permanent place. That's pretty much where we're at. It's late, and I'm completely wiped out. Between mourning Flip and trying to navigate this emotional mess, I haven't gotten a decent night's sleep in days. And again, thank you. All of you. The support, the validation, the compassion from strangers, it really helped. It reminded me that I wasn't crazy or weak for feeling so gutted by her reaction. To all the animal lovers out there, always trust your gut. And may God bless and keep you. Update 2. First things first, Stephanie and I are okay. Not great, but okay. We had dinner last night with Tanya and her husband. It was a welcome distraction. They even brought Stephanie a little stuffed border collie that looked like Flip. She rolled her eyes and said it was lame because, she's 13, but I saw her sneak it into bed later. So I know it meant something. As for Donna, she's officially gone. That break we talked about? Lasted a week, maybe. We had one more sit down, and it made me realize we were never going to work. The Flip situation was just one piece of a bigger puzzle. Truthfully, I'd been ignoring other red flags for a while. I won't get into everything we discussed, it got personal, but let's just say, the problems ran deeper than I wanted to admit. The night before she left for good, she gave it one last shot. Told me I was throwing away a good relationship over a dog. I told her, it's not about the dog. It's about the fact that when I was hurting, you didn't show up. You didn't care. And if this is how you act when I'm grieving, what happens when life throws something even harder at us? She didn't have a real answer. Moving her out was a whole ordeal. She'd only lived here for about a month, but her stuff had somehow spread into nearly every room. It took us 3 full days to pack it all up and move it to her sister's place. There was even a bit of drama over the furniture. She tried to claim some of the pieces Joy and I had picked out years ago, saying she helped pay for them by contributing to the household bills while she was here. I shut that down fast. A few people asked about the lease. Yes, she signed a 1-year lease with me. But since I own the house, it wasn't a formal rental situation. She did pay a security deposit and 1 month's rent, which I gave back in full. She was only here 6 weeks, but it felt right to refund it and end things cleanly. Some folks also asked if I thought Donna might have done something to Flip to make him sick. No. Absolutely not. The vet made it very clear that Flip's cancer had been progressing for months. It wasn't something that suddenly happened when she moved in. And while she wasn't exactly warm to him, she was never cruel. Let's not go down that rabbit hole. Someone in the comments brought up what I said about anger being a secondary emotion. That's something I picked up during grief counseling. I did a lot of that after Joy died. It really helped me understand that anger often masks deeper feelings, pain, fear, loss. Once I learned to recognize that, I became better at responding rather than reacting. Oh, and for the people who said Stephanie sounded too mature in my last update, yeah, she's 13. Not a saint. She can be wildly insightful 1 minute, and completely irrational the next. I had to reword some of what she said for Reddit, since her actual phrasing involved things like cringe and dushel, which seems to be her new favorite insult. We have a no-swearing rule in the house, for both of us, so I let her get creative. For example, the night after Donna left, Stephanie had a full-on meltdown because I accidentally bought the wrong cereal brand. So yeah, she's still a teenager. Lately, we've been talking about getting another dog. Of course, no one will ever replace Flip. But we both feel like it might be time to welcome a new 4-legged companion into our home, especially since I work nights and she's home alone more now. We're going to check out a local rescue shelter this weekend and let Stephanie help choose. Maybe we'll go with a slightly older dog this time, one that needs a second chance. Puppies are wonderful, but they're a lot of work, and neither of us is ready for that level of chaos just yet. Anyway, that's where things stand. Thank you again to everyone who took the time to read, comment, and share advice. Most of what you all said confirmed what I was already feeling, but when you're in the thick of it, and your heart is raw, it's hard to think clearly. Having objective voices tell me I wasn't overreacting gave me the push I needed to trust myself. Life goes on. It's just a little quieter now, without the sound of Flip's tail thumping against the floor every morning. Stephanie's doing better at school. I'm throwing myself into work to stay busy. One day at a time, right? God bless every one of you.